Hello and welcome to this demonstration. The point of this demonstration is to color correct Cine Gamma 1 in regards to both color and exposure. One of the things I think that is tripping up a lot of us when using this particular profile is the mismatch between the ISO values that are published, or the ISO values that are recommended to you in camera, and the published IRE values. I actually think the IRE values are the ones that you should go by over the ISO values, and I hope to demonstrate this in this test, plus a few things that you need to look at inside the paint menu. So let's find exposure. So currently we're in standard gamma. I've got the lens closed all the way down to T22. We have a 650 watt Fresnel off to the right hand side, which is a tungsten based source. It's got 1/8 Lee diffusion on the front. We're at 3200 Kelvin, 1/50th of a shutter, pretty standard setup. The recording here, we are recording internally to the SD card, and we are outputting to the Odyssey. The point of outputting to the Odyssey was purely to record the menu changes that I make. So first of all, let's find exposure. So as you can see, at 1000 ISO we get a reading of f8 and 9/10. So around here is the correct exposure for standard gamma. Now there's a few things for us to look into. First of all, let's double check this exposure using the camera's built-in zebra function. So I'm activating zebra 1, and standard gamma you should probably be floating around 43-45%. Let's have a look. Look, 40, oh there we go, look, 45-46%. So let's just modify our aperture just a tiny bit. There we go, there's a solid 45% IRE on the middle grey, which actually brings us to a dead T11. And when you consider that we were at T8 and 9/10, it's not really surprising. Okay. Next thing to check is the black value of our particular profile, and I think this is where we start to get tripped up a little bit. So I'm going to place the lens cap on, and straight away we can see that based on the waveform that our particular picture profile has raised blacks. So going to picture profile 1. It is already at standard, but let's reset just to be sure. As you can see, no change. Let's go to our black level, which is also called pedestal in other cameras, and let's bring our black levels down. I'd say about -7, -6, -7. I'm going to go with -7. Return, okay. Right, let's take our cap off, and apparently this is now correct, but as you can see, our IRE value on our middle grey has shifted due to that black level change. So let's reopen our iris. I reckon we have to open up a little bit, and there we go, back at T8 and roughly 9/10. We now have middle grey pinging at 45%, which really does show you that the ISO value we found on the light meter was accurate, but the fact that the black levels were off in camera is what put that particular grey value off. And there we go. I mean, technically we have correct exposure for Rec 709. From here we could pull a colour match off the chart just to realign the colours that come from this particular Sony sensor to line up with the X-Rite chart. Okay, so let's move into Cine Gamma 1, and we'll go through the same process. You can put the profiles in any picture profile, but I've moved to picture profile 5 because that's where the Cine Gamma 1 is by default, and as you can see that I'm not making any changes to the gamma or the color mode. Okay, so here we are, and the ISO value for this particular gamma has dropped to 800 ISO. That for me is already a slight problem, because 800 ISO is going to ask us to open the aperture up from our particular value, and we all know that Cine Gammas need to be stepped down because that's how they get their extra dynamic range. But let's take the ISO value at face value and let's take a reading. Okay, so the light meter reading that we got was T8 and 5/10, so roughly T8 and a half, which is roughly here. And as you can see, at T8 and 5/10, the IRE value is actually lined up with the same zebra value that we found at standard gamma. Now we all know that the Cine Gamma it requires underexposure, and particularly with Cine Gamma 1, the IRE value is actually 33%. So let's go over to our zebras and make a change. So if we pull this down to 33% and come out, and now I'm going to manipulate the aperture to try and find that zebra value, and they're very faint for some reason. I don't know why that does that, but let's see if we can find it. So I'm closing down, and there we go. I can see the aperture, the zebra value ping there. Okay, I've probably gone too far. Let's bring it back, and roughly here. There you go. That looks, yeah, it's about there, I'd say. Okay, and looking at the camera, we are at T16. So to demonstrate how off that is when it comes to light meter value, without taking another reading, I'm just going to change the film speed of my light meter until we get around T16 as a reading. So as you can see, when I change my light meter up to ISO 2500, I get T16 and 2/10 come up on my light meter. That is actually a lot closer to the exposure value that we found at a dead T16, which, you know, for me shows you that the light meter values that Sony give you can't really be trusted if the IRE values are what you are trying to find. Now, I trust my light meter. My light meter is accurate when it comes to the Area Mirror, the Red Epic Dragon, and when I'm in S-Log. So I trust my light meter quite a bit, and I would take my light meter's readings over the camera. But what we haven't done in this particular profile is check the black level. So let's do that. And looking at the black level, it's definitely raised. I would say maybe -3 or -4, I would say. Maybe, I'm going to go with -4. It could be slightly off, but based on the waveform that I'm using on the Odyssey, that looks about right. And let's come out. So let's return, okay. With the lens cap. Okay, and now looking at the zebras now, they're very, very faint. It's very hard to see, but they seem to have shifted away from the middle grey value. So let's just see where we've got to go. So I'm opening up a little bit. There we go. Oh, it's disappeared. So I'd say it's around. I'd say around there. I mean, anyone's free to question me, but yeah, I would say there for middle grey. And that has us open up to T11 and roughly 5/10. So as you can see, I've now altered my light meter again now that the black level is correct, and we are looking at T11 and 5/10, which is pretty much the aperture value that the lens is set at. Gives us an exposure reading of ISO 1600. So if I need to ignore the ISO value of 800 in camera, meter at 1600, and I will get the correct exposure for Cine Gamma 1. I think this is key because overexposure washes out the contrast, and it greatly changes the results you get when you pull an exposure from the chart. And the whole point of this is to be able to it basically is to create a LUT from the exposure gamut pool from the chart to use on the Odyssey or to use on any recorder in order to correctly find exposure at 3200 Kelvin. What I can do for the benefit of this test is also apply a colour gel to my light source, which is a full CTB, a full colour temperature blue colour gel, in order to also meter this particular scene for daylight balance. So at the moment we're at 3200 Kelvin, so let's shift over and put on our colour gel. Okay, so the light is now gelled, and there's a few things that are very obviously wrong. So the first thing is we need to change the white balance from 3200 Kelvin up to 5500 Kelvin, so it's somewhere around here. There we go. And of course the exposure has also changed because the gel is in place. Now I can input the gel's loss into my light meter, but we already know the light meter is slightly off, so I'm going to use the IRE values that we've entered into the zebra pattern to find middle grey on our colour checker passport. So that's probably too much. Let's come back a bit, and there we go, there's correct exposure, and it should be roughly the correct colour balance. I've entered 5500 Kelvin. The thing is, depending on how old the light bulb is, and even the gels themselves, they can get washed out from continuous use. This might be slightly off, but it shouldn't be off by too much. It shouldn't be off by too much, and pulling the LUT from the chart should bring us in the right ballpark anyway. I'm going to put the lens cap on. Yeah, just to confirm, the black levels are still, yeah, they're still down at 0. We've not seen anything change by changing the gel. But there we go. So now I'm going to move over to DaVinci Resolve, and we're going to check these values in DaVinci Resolve, and we're going to build a LUT from the colour chart and see what kind of result we get. Okay, and here we are in DaVinci Resolve. Just to make it clear what has taken place, so we recorded on the Odyssey 7Q, and we also recorded internally to the SD card, mainly for two reasons. Firstly, on the Odyssey 7Q we were outputting the overlays from the FS5 so that you could see the menu changes that I made to the black level, etc. And also so we could actually visually see together the zebra values on the chart. What we also did is we recorded to the SD card so that we had a clean feed of what we were recording, and that's for two reasons. One, the first reason is that not everyone has an Odyssey 7Q, an Inferno, or a Pixie 5, for example, to record ProRes for that slight improvement in video quality that you get when you record the video stream. So the SD card, the internal XAVC at 50 megabit, is across the board what everyone can get access to. The second thing was, in order to build the waveform changes in Final Cut 10 that I overlaid in my tutorial, I also needed a clean capture of the video footage. And thirdly, I don't want to build LUTs off of the footage from the Odyssey 7Q, because the Odyssey 7Q has the overlays in there, so it does have the zebra pattern and it has some of the menus and stuff like that. So there's always a chance that it could throw off the results we get. So anyway, with that explanation out of the way, here we are. So the first thing to do is, if you grab your color chart tool in DaVinci Resolve, you simply line up the dots here. Let me just give you this representation so you can see we're using the same chart, colors all match, and you are essentially matching them up yourself in the right positions. And that's how hard that is to do. Now, just a quick time saver. I've already done this once before, so I'm gonna get rid of this. But essentially, because each shot doesn't move, you can just copy across these changes. So if you grabbed a still from here, it would create this one. And in this still here is my correction. So if I shift click these clips and then add the correction, you can see the chart is perfect, but also the chart is perfect on each clip. So it's just a small time saver when you're doing testing. You know, I mean, if you've got 30 clips, it's a hell of a time saver. But anyway, let's go in and see. Let's see what we get from the chart match. So we're on standard gamma first. Let's just double check that. Standard gamma. Standard gamma at 3200 Kelvin. And its standard gamma is Rec 709 derived. The target gamma is Rec 709. The color space is Rec 709. The color temperature, this does confuse a few people. The color temperature is the color temperature of your screen. It's got nothing to do with the camera. It's essentially so that you end up seeing the correct result on the screen. So my screen is actually set to 6500 Kelvin, but if yours is set to something different, make sure you input that there in order to get a correct representation. White level is where the white chit is going to sit after your correction. Now Rec 709 has white at 90%, so that's where I want to move it to. So click match, and straight away the warmth that you saw from the tungsten white balance has gone, which is, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually, I mean, it's what you'll see in film. You know, the correct, you know, white on tungsten film and white on 5500 daylight film is slightly warm and slightly blue. It's not perfect Xerox color white, but in color correction, that's what we're shifting to here. So yeah, it looks great to me. Really good contrast, colors are vibrant. You know, looking at the reds on the bike, I mean, this is, you know, my little setup is only a few inches away, and this looks accurate to me. And Neo doesn't look like Keanu Reeves. He looks like Keanu Reeves with a tan, but you know, that's about as close as we can get. Okay, let's move on to Cine Gamma at 3200 Kelvin. Now there's a dramatic difference here, but then that's the whole point of the Cine Gamma. It's in order to capture that extra highlight headroom. Let's click match, and I actually see more of a bluish cast here. And just compare the two. So let me just go back to zoom to fit. So here's standard gamma, and here is the Cine Gamma after processing. And you can definitely see that the standard gamma has a bit more contrast. It almost looks warmer, like a little redder in the shadows, but I think that's just my eyes getting tricked by the fact that this looks slightly, well, it is slightly lifted and looks slightly cooler. But I suppose it's subjective as to what one you prefer. And the thing is that this is color correction. This is all about the basis of where the grading process starts, and essentially we're just trying to make sure that we hand over accurate colors. And I would be happy with either one of these. I've got to say I probably prefer the Cine Gamma's transform from the X-Rite chart. I don't know if I've just been programmed to like it that way, or if it's anything else, but yeah. Okay, let's have a look at 5500 Kelvin. Now 5500 Kelvin, I mean, I'm sure you can all see it, but there's like a magenta cast going on. This is something we could probably have adjusted in camera, and it's probably down to the things I was saying, that the gel I'm using, I mean, it's an old gel, and the tungsten light, I couldn't even tell you how old the bulb is. And because we're not metering with because we're not taking a measurement with a color meter, like a Sekonic 800 series meter, to like actually check that color temperature, it could be throwing things off. But yeah, just to remember that color temperature is not white balance. Color temperature is color temperature, and white balance is actually a combination of correct color temperature and then magenta green bias. Well, at least from the camera anyway. But this shouldn't be much for the chart to correct it. I wouldn't say the deviations are huge. So anyway, just make sure our process is the same again, and we'll click match. And really, I mean, we're expecting it not to match the standard gamma, but yeah, we're hoping that it matches the previous Cine Gamma, because the previous Cine Gamma is the same color matrix. The only thing that's different is the white balance, technically, the white balance, the color balance that we inputted into the camera. I'm seeing a small difference here with the greens. So this is the daylight balance correction. We seem to have more saturation in these greens and a little less here. Let's have a quick look. Let's just watch those numbers. 6%. Yeah, we're seeing an extra percentage increase here. But yeah, personally, I still think that overall the I'd be very happy handing off Cine Gamma footage that was correctly exposed, and then this would be my LUT that I'd pass across. So I hope that's been helpful, and again, feel free to ask any questions or start a discussion. You know, I'm always interested to hear what other people think, and yeah, I hope this helps. I'll try and tackle Cine Gamma 4 at some point. Cine Gamma 2 is the same as Cine Gamma 1, it's just the legal version of it. So the IRE value is slightly lower at 30%, and the maximum recording range is 100%, not 109. So I honestly, you could apply these exact corrections really to Cine Gamma 2, because you would be exposing slightly darker in Cine Gamma 2. But Cine Gamma 4, on the other hand, is a Cine Gamma that lots of people go to. They call it the low light Cine Gamma, and I will try and tackle that one, and I'll make a video just specifically for that particular Cine Gamma. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful. Catch you later. Catch you on the next one.